So I've been taking like gummies to sleep, and I don't really take the other kind.
The other kind.
And then yesterday I was reorganizing my nightstand. And I found these 2 gummies that I got at the place where I got the sleep ones. And the writing on the little baggie that she gave me was kind of worn off. So I couldn't really tell what they were. And I remembered later that she said, just take half.
Oh, no.
After she had, of course, taken the whole thing.
So I popped it yesterday and I'm cleaning and I'm like, oh, I'm going to lay down for a minute.
4 hours later.
And then literally 4 hours later, I'm like, oh my God. And I woke up and you guys, I was so fucking high. I said to him, let's get a pizza.
I need a pizza right now.
No. That's not what she said. What she said was, I want a pizza. It came out like she was possessed by the devil.
Welcome to Hey, did you ever see that movie? I'm your fucking host, Des, and as always, I'm joined by my fucking co-host, Lynn.
I'm looking for a man who calls himself Bucho.
And joining us again, these 2 fucking podcasters, Mikki.
Let's play.
And last but not least, the podcaster packing some fucking heat, Tony 2.0.
Just in case, it's a long ride to the next town.
All right, that'll be my last fuck for a minute. This week, we will be discussing the 1995 action movie, Desperado. This movie was written and directed by Robert Rodriguez, starring Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, Joaquim Almeida. As always, this podcast will contain spoilers.
What?
So if you haven't seen the movie, go back and watch it, then come back and listen to the fucking podcast.
How do you say River Phoenix's younger brother's name?
Joaquin.
Thank you.
Please take a minute to like, subscribe, and share. So every week I ask you people to please like, subscribe, and share, especially if you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, because that's really where we're trying to grow the show. And every week, you don't. You know, I look back and not one like, not one comment, not one share, nothing. So here's the deal, okay? If I go on after we upload this, and all you fucking lovely listeners have watched and listened to this fucking podcast, and there's not one like, not one share, not one comment, guess what? It's the last fucking podcast. Yeah, that's right. It's the last fucking one, because that's it. Show's canceled. We're not coming back. And I already know you're not going to do it, because asking you people to give us a like is like asking you to, cut off a finger or give me your firstborn child, because it's that big a fucking deal to you people to hit a fucking little like button for a show that you listen to. So I'm going to go ahead and just say goodbye now. Okay. Bye. Never going to hear me again unless you want to go over and listen to my other podcast where people do like, subscribe, and share. Violent Vinyl Radio. Make sure you check it out. So that's it. I'm saying goodbye now. If you guys would all like to say goodbye to Lynn, Tony, Mikki, want to say goodbye to these fucking listeners?
No.
No, Des has just had a little too much caffeine today, folks. He's having a rough go.
Okay. So there you go.
By the way, Des, that was a really awesome plug. So
Thank
good. Way to work that in. That was kick ass.
I had to go around the world to plug Violent Vinyl Radio.
But it was smooth. It was slick. It was perfect. I love the timing.
It's insulting.
I give it a 9.
Insulting. Yeah. I give it a 9.
Hey, sometimes you gotta kick them in the ass, and sometimes you gotta pat them on the head.
Dude, I've been kicking them in the ass for 140 episodes, and you know what? They just don't give a fuck. I'd like to welcome our new listeners in Ireland. Welcome. Too bad it's the last show. You know what's going to happen next week? We're going to come back for fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're going to be here, and I'm going to have to shamefully say that I was bluffing. Okay.
I make you bet you're going to get at least 3 or 4 comments and 2 or 3 likes. What the hell? I think we're going to break this trend of bad juju.
Tony, there's no chance.
See.
We've had 2 comments over 140
I know,
episodes.
but I'm an optimist. Just ask my wife; she'll play that card. Yeah.
One comment was from a troll telling us how much he hated the podcast.
That's
And the other
okay.
one-
You know what? As long as they're talking about you, who gives a shit if it's good or bad?
Okay.
I don't think I sold him.
Let's do some opening thoughts on this one. So I will get us started. I have never seen this movie before, surprisingly. So the question is, was it any good? Well, let's find out. Glenn, you ever see this stupid movie before we did this podcast?
Well, you just tipped your hand. Yes, I have seen this movie 1,000 times. I love it.
1,000?
Many, many times. It was the comfort movie for a while. I would just
Mm.
put it on and let it run.
Mikki, had you ever seen the movie before preparing for the podcast?
Yes, several times. Several times I have seen this movie. Yes.
Tony, had you ever seen the movie before preparing for the podcast?
I had, yes. I enjoy it as well. And I didn't put it in heavy rotation quite like Delin, but I've probably seen it 15 times or so, 20 times.
All right, Spunky Brewster, you ready to give your facts?
So this movie was made with $7 million, which is 1,000 times the budget Rodriguez had for the first film, El Mariachi, which he made for $7,000. There were only 2 stuntmen to save money, so we essentially watched the same 2 guys get killed over and over again with different wigs, mustaches, outfits, etc. So it's the same 2 dudes. This film was slated to be rated NC-17. Partially to blame was that instead of using blood squibs in the guns, they were loading the guns with fake blood. So of course, every time a shot goes off, it's like raining blood. That really gross splatter effect. So Rodriguez ended up cutting out a lot of it to get the film down to an R, including the last scene, which was initially supposed to be a huge shootout, and he ended up turning into a fade out. So that's why the movie ends the way it does, because it was too much for the censors.
An actual bar in Acuna, Mexico called the Corona Club. The bar is a lot cleaner and bigger in reality, but it is like walking right into the movie. They also have quite a few pictures of the cast and crew on the wall. So there you go. If you're ever in Mexico, the city of Acuna, make sure you stop by the Corona Club for some flat piss beer. Okay. Mikki, Tony, either of you got anything on this movie?
I do.
Oh,
Go, Mick.
go.
Robert Rodriguez and Danny Trejo discovered they were cousins when they were filming this movie.
Holy shit. That's unbelievable.
I found out that originally Rodriguez had cast the actor Raul Julia, who is an excellent, would have been a great bad guy, had a long Hollywood career. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1994 during the prelim, if you will, to the movie. So they had to switch gears. And although I think that, how do we say it, that we had a good guy because he's kind of gone with an all Latin cast. So he had to pick a guy quickly and it was a serviceable character. He is one of the people that I wound up recasting. So
Interesting.
we'll work on that later.
I would have loved to have seen Julia do that.
Yeah. He's got great range and he was a really solid actor.
Cool. All right, let me give you guys a quick synopsis and then we will get into it. So, having had his entire life destroyed by a criminal kingpin, El Mariachi, a former guitar player, goes looking for revenge in a small Mexican border town.
In August of 1994 at the Tarasco bar in Mexico, an American man named Buscemi tells the story of how he witnessed a massacre in another bar committed by a Mexican with a guitar case full of guns. The bar's patrons are uninterested until Buscemi mentions the name Bucho. Meanwhile, El Mariachi has a dream of his encounter with Muco, Bucho's underling, who killed his lover and shot his left hand. He's awakened by Buscemi, who tells him to continue his search for Bucho at the bar. Buscemi tries to reason with El Mariachi and stop his crusade, but the former guitar player is not having any of it. Let's take a moment to appreciate this opening scene with Steve Buscemi Buscemiing as hard as he possibly can. He's delivering this dialogue perfectly. Not like these scumbags here, like they were real scumbags, not like these class acts here. Like it was so well done. Perfect opening scene. Love it.
Yeah. So this opening scene that you're talking about took me off guard for a couple of reasons. First, I thought the movie was going to be set in the Old West, but no, set in a very weird version of the 90s. Secondly, I thought this was going to be a straight Western action drama, but it felt more like a satire comedy action drama. I was pleasantly surprised by that though, because of the cast and, these guys all have great comedic timing, Cheech Moran, Steve Buscemi. We get this great scene with Buscemi and Cheech Moran, and this scene definitely had a Dusk Till Dawn vibe to it. And the movie had an Old West feel to it, which I thought was pretty cool. Next, we get this El Mariachi rock video starring Antonio Banderas, where we get an idea of what his origin story is through this kind of dream sequence that felt like an 80s MTV rock video. It was interesting. It definitely had an 80s, late 80s, early 90s feel to it. And we're going to get to this decade jumping as we go through this. And for the record, as a musician, if you hit an asshole in the face with the headstock of your guitar halfway through a song, that guitar will be completely out of tune for the rest of the night. And finally, the tone of this scene between Buscemi and Banderas felt so familiar in the vein of movies like Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction that I had to check quickly if Quentin Tarantino had a hand in the directing or writing of the movie. And it turns out that he did, but wasn't officially credited. He was friends with Robert Rodriguez, obviously, as we all know from doing Dusk Till Dawn together. And he was whispering in Rodriguez's ear throughout filming. So he definitely has fingerprints all over this thing. I wish he had been screaming in Rodriguez's ear through the entire shooting of this movie, but we're going to get into that. So I'm going to have a lot of the same comments that I had while we were doing Dusk Till Dawn. It's going to be a lot of the same. Mikki, opening scenes.
I thought, to me, honestly, Steve Buscemi, he's one of those people that I don't think can do any wrong, no matter what he's doing. He's perfect in every single role that he has, and I don't know, like, I have in my notes, Buscemi, fun story. Like, it was just the way he told it. He was just, like you said, so dead on with, not like these assholes here. Oh, you're these fine gentlemen,
In walks the biggest Mexican I've ever seen.
And I love, and it was fun because it almost was like, the way he was telling it, it was like some old folklore. You know what I mean? Like, just, the story of the, whatever, the biggest man I've ever seen. And then, of course, Antonio Banderas. I forgot how badass he was in this. Like, I remember seeing this for the first time going, wow, I look at him in a whole new light now. Cause I always thought he was cool, but like, he was fucking cool in this movie. Like, I just love his character. He was just so badass. Just even the way, no offense, but what's his name from fucking Staying Alive has nothing on this guy's strut through the town. Like, he's just bad.
No way. Get out of here. Dude, I told you, I almost cried when John Travolta strutted at the end of Staying Alive.
Oh
I got
my
choked
God.
up. That walk was so hot.
Wow.
We're not going to
embarrassing.
do any Freudian rip apart of that whole comment, but okay, you got to give Banderas his props, but in a totally different light.
I literally
He's not one of the
teared up.
Lords of Flatbush. He's just some guy from Acuna, Mexico.
I literally teared up when the fucking song came on and the
teared up.
strut and Tony. Sorry.
A couple of quick things that I think everybody's kind of hit on. First of all, the coolest part of that whole bar was the best neon sign in all of Mexico, which says the client is always wrong.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up.
I want to go drinking in a joint like that. That's my kind of spot.
Yep.
And the other difference is that, it's the second of a trilogy by Robert Rodriguez. So it's a little tough if you've never seen it to know kind of the progression. You know what I mean? El Mariachi is the first.
So this is connected to Dusk Till Dawn?
No,
it's
the trilogy that Rodriguez wrote was actually El Mariachi is the first movie. That's the movie Delin alluded to with the $7,000 budget.
Okay.
And then Tarantino picks up on Rodriguez and they become friends and they realize they have a lot of the same influences. Even to the point of Steve Buscemi's story. Steve Buscemi is a great actor, but because I don't think he's perfect in anything, I think he's imperfect. And that's why he's so good at what he does, is because he's not perfect. This is not De Niro. This is not Pacino. This is fucking Steve Buscemi. Okay. He was a New York firefighter. Imperfect. Well, and I understand where you're coming from, Mick. My thing is that Steve Buscemi is an oddity in and of himself because he is who he is. He's not handsome. He's not suave. He's not debonair. He's everything anti-Hollywood, but he's fucking true to him. He's an original, he's still a New York firefighter. He's the guy that went down to the Twin Towers after they collapsed to see if he could help out as a retired New York fire or a guy who left this fire service but still wanted to contribute. So, you know,
That's amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing.
well,
I never knew that.
you know, yeah, he actually did. And he's a very original, you know, very true to self kind of guy. And that's what I love and respect about him.
And
Plus,
you
it's
didn't
the
have
idea
any
that-
facts. Look at you.
Well, all right, but it's not really a fact about the movie, so I kind of left that out. But it's also the idea that you can tell that his speech is just dripping with sarcasm. But because it's a movie, we're going to let him get away with it. Most of those guys would have ripped him apart halfway through because, you know, that's the way that goes. But it is what it is. So, and I think too, it's kind of the neo-Western, Des, like you said. It's got a lot of throwbacks to, because in a Western, you have to have an older character usually that builds the story for the audience. And that's what Buscemi's job kind of is here. He's going to lay the foundation for you so you know what this is all about.
Sure.
And you're right, between him and Cheech, you know, kind of with that repartee back and forth, and then he goes, "Oh, the bartender never gets killed, huh?" And he's
So
like,
good.
"Oh, he got
So
it the
good.
worst," you know,
Yeah.
kind of like, "I'm going to lead you down this path. I'm going to slam the door on your head." So too bad, but just great setup, and you can see it. Rodriguez and Tarantino, you know, Tarantino gets his usual cameo, although he has some really bad lines and a terrible joke, but it's his favorite way to bring himself in. And they're obviously very good. And one thing I think he did too is he stole a great soundtrack from a lot of excellent artists. You know, Los Lobos was popular back then, but it's Carlos Santana and Tito and Tarantula and Link Ray and Latin Playboys. And I think there's even Dire Straits in that scene when he walks in. You can kind of hear some Knopfler in there, but just, you know, they do a really good job. I mean, $7 million was nothing. I think the movie grossed about $60 million. So it did quite well, you know what I mean, considering. And it's the idea too that then the third version was Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which to me was even more Hollywood, which unfortunately for these films, I don't think works. I think you have to keep it at a level where it's pretty basic. You're telling me a story. You're giving me overt action, and I'm just enjoying it for the fact that I'm enjoying it.
I agree that if you went to Hollywood with this, it would not be
It would
good.
ruin it.
Because
Yeah.
the whole point of it is that it's low budget, and it looks low budget, and you're enjoying it because of that.
Exactly.
You know?
That's the charm and the charisma of his movies, is that it's not this sexy, heavily choreographed, incredible stunts. You know what I mean?
Right.
You
right.
believe it because you want to believe it, and because it's, you know, it is what it is. And
Another little fun factoid is that the guy who plays Campa at the end
yes,
was the El Mariachi in the first film.
yes, that's right. I forgot
So-
the actor's name, but
I
knew he
forget
looked
his name,
familiar.
but that is him. He was the first El Mariachi.
And for the record, it was a $7 million budget with a $25,400,000 return. So this was a box office success for sure for the
Right.
studio.
And I'm sure it's made more in aftermarket sales too. That's just
yeah.
the box
Sure.
office, because it was definitely a pop culture
When
movie.
you make a movie like this, I'm sure you don't get the best opening week because of the idea that you're not exactly wooing theaters to
Right.
put you in there.
Right.
Right. El Mariachi meets a child whose father used to play guitar for a living. He gives the boy some pointers. Inside, two men arrive. They are the pickup guys for Bucho. One of them relieves a ridiculous joke about a man pissing on a bartender, and the other one gets shot in the head. Tavo takes the guy out back while the bartender continues on with business like he didn't just shoot a dude in the head. Shortly after, El Mariachi enters and claims he's looking for work. The patrons of the bar know exactly what's going on here because they've heard all about a gunman carrying a guitar case. They take it from him to search. Initially, it looks like a guitar, but underneath it is his arsenal. A gunfight erupts. He kills everyone in the bar but Tavo, who is still out in the back room with the pickup guy, who he kills before giving chase when Mariachi leaves. Carolina, the owner of the local bookstore, is walking toward Mariachi and Tavo. When Tavo opens fire, Mariachi shields Carolina and then kills Tavo. She pulls him away to safety in her bookshop. So I know I covered a lot of ground here. So this cameo by Quentin Tarantino, I mean, I think it's perfect. It's a stupid joke. It's so awkward, but that's kind of what makes it good to me. They could only afford Cheech Marin for 6 days on such a tight budget, which is why he hides behind the bar for most of the fight, because he technically wasn't there. So
Right.
also the actor that plays Tavo is in the band Tito and Tarantula, whose song is playing over the scene. That's the singer. And you
Oh,
might
cool.
remember him from Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn as well, yeah.
Mhm. Yes, this scene is ridiculous, but that's what's so fun about it. It's fucking ridiculous. But I know Des has something to say about this, so go ahead.
I mean, you covered a lot of ground, so I have a lot to say. So next we get this scene of El Mariachi hitchhiking, and we see a truck pass by with Danny fucking Trejo, and I'm so excited because I love Danny Trejo. He is like, he just plays Danny Trejo. Badass fucking Mexican dude. Like, that's it, and he is. And I only mention the scene because the truck, just like everything in this movie, it's not period correct for the 90s. This scene felt more like the 50s to me. And whenever they decade jump in this movie, which they do all the time, you can see he really makes an effort to not just throw 50s truck in. Like, he gives you the whole feel. Like, there's scenes that look 70s, 90s, 80s, Old West. The only thing that's giving away that first scene where, you know, we're seeing Buscemi talking to Cheech Moran is, you know, like some of the guys wearing leather jackets with red and black. And I'm like, oh, they're not dressed in the Old West. But everything else looks Old West. This movie feels like a bunch of different decades smashed into one movie. And it kind of has more of an Old Western feel to me than the 90s. And it's a clever choice and gives the movie a dirty, gritty, Old Western feel while also introducing this kind of modern twist. It doesn't always work in the movie, but I kind of like what he was going for. Then we get a couple of scenes. First, we get this great fight scene that takes place in a ring made of sticks and cow skulls, which was a great introduction to Bucho. But then we go back to the bar where we get this strange scene of three completely out of place women complaining about the service. And I was confused by this, and the choice just doesn't work. It briefly changes the feel of the movie into something that just felt jarringly out of place and unnecessary. I didn't get it. Next, we get the scene of El Mariachi walking into town. This scene here looks like it was shot in like 1977. Every car is from the 70s. The city, everything looks 1970s. I was having fun with the visual decade jumping that they were doing. Love the scene with El Mariachi showing the kid how to finger pick the guitar, because we see not only did he lose the woman he loved, but he also lost the ability to play guitar, which you can see like cuts him deeply. And it was a nice touch to setting up the revenge narrative of the movie. And finally, we get this sequence at the bar. First, we get a scene with Quentin Tarantino telling a joke before being covered with blood and brains, which felt so Pulp Fiction to me. This is Vincent and in the car where they accidentally blow the guy's head off in the back seat going over the bump.
Right.
Same thing. Then we get this ridiculous scene of El Mariachi armed with 2 9mm handguns taking on 20 guys with automatic weapons in a tiny bar, and no one can even graze him. This is such the Star Wars stormtrooper trope bullshit, you know? But whatever, I'm having fun at this point. Tony, you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think two things. You know that none of this, as you like to call it, scene jumping as far as the decade. This is the town of Vacuna, Mexico. You're only getting what's there, bro. There's no, prop master hauling shit out that has anything to do with that. The reason the cars are old is because it's Mexico. They don't rust. Henceforth, you can have a 70s car that lasts for 50 years.
Right.
And it's also the idea that I think the only thing there is that there is no, there's not a Chevy dealer in town. There's not a car dealership to buy a new car at. Because let's be honest, we're in some little podunk spot where you're in basically a third world kind of country. And, I hate to bring socioeconomic reality into it, but this is a $7 million film where you ain't getting, prop masters to do that. So I like that you brought it up, and it definitely does have that Western flair, but it's the kind of thing where that's Mexico. That's that part of the world, because everything there is old, everything there is kind of gritty and dirty. And I think that's what Rodriguez loves, is that he pays homage kind of to the roots of, he could have filmed it in Mexico City and made it slick and, whatever, but that's not him. You know what I mean? He's going to do it in a little town. And it's also that, it's Shane, or it's Rio Bravo, or it's pick a 50s, Western that was popular, the stuff he grew up on. where he was watching, John Wayne or, Michael Landon, or pick, an actor of that decade. And it's, there's a hero and there's a bad guy, and the hero faces off with the bad guy, and then we ride off into the sunset almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Tony, to
So-
your point too, is the scene with the girls complaining about the service, and later there's another scene where there's like teenagers that walk into the bar.
We call those
And-
tourists. Yeah.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like when you're in a border town, you have Americans that cross the border and then come in and act like they own the place. And I think that's why he put those scenes in there. Personally, I feel like they could have been left out. They don't need to be there. But, Des brought it up. So I'm explaining. I think that when you're in one of those towns, that's kind of what's going on.
Sure.
Like you get Americans that come down there and act like they own the place.
Right.
So
I love the Cheech version of that is, oh, okay, you didn't like the service? I'm so sorry. Yeah, screw you. Kind of like, I could care less.
Yeah.
It'd be better if you didn't come in here at all,
Exactly.
I don't know,
But-
man. It just froze the vibe of the movie for me. It's like he's in the middle of this fucking looking over all this bullshit, and then all of a sudden, it's just
No. I totally understand, and I agree with you that you could take those scenes out, and it would not hurt the film at all. It would probably make the film better. I'm just saying, I think he was really trying to show what it was like to be in one of these border towns, and that's one of the
Right.
things that happens.
And even to the idea of the second version of this, where the 4 young Americans, or I'm assuming that's what they're supposed to be, come into the bar and there's a bunch of bodies everywhere, and Bucho looks at him and goes, "Can't you fucking see the bar is closed?" Kind of like, are you that dumb that I have to say this to you?
Yeah.
Most people would see that and go, "Fuck," and they turn right around and haul ass because they don't need to be told. But these special people need a reminder to go, this is not normal. Why don't you head out? So he's kind of flipping the bird at the Americans because we're terrible tourists.
Mickey, what'd you think of these scenes?
I agree with you. I think I see both points. Like I see why those, the women were like, their service sucks, blah, blah, blah. But I also think I agree that it could have completely not even been in there and been fine. I think sometimes they do that maybe for like, I don't know, not comic relief, but maybe like Dylan said, to show that this could really probably happen in something like this, but I don't think it needed to be there. What I do love is that scene. I remember that scene, like where the big shootout and he's on the ground, the guy jumps off the bar at him and he uses his feet, kicks him back, and then shoots him. That was so badass. Like that was such a classic Robert Rodriguez shot. And then, when they slide into each other on the bar and they're doing the, I'm not a Star Wars person, so I would not have picked up that reference, but I thought that was such a cool, and I even have in my notes here, everyone is dirty and sweaty except for Salma Hayek.
Right.
Like, everybody is, gritty and kind of dingy, and she just looks, of course, breathtaking and clean and no sweat. But no, I think that was a great. I love Robert Rodriguez. I like Quentin Tarantino. I think they do a lot of things very similar. I love his action shots. I loved the El Mariachi. I loved that. I think, could it have been a little less over the top? Yes, but then to me, it wouldn't be a Robert Rodriguez movie.
Right. That's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're talking about the comic relief, though. It's like this movie. One of my problems with it is it doesn't know what it wants to be. I mean, it's just. I get it. Yeah, there's tourists, but not in this fucking movie. Like this fucking movie, you don't need that. It's unnecessary scene, makes no sense. I don't know. It was glaring. It was a glaring misstep for me. Dylan, keep rolling.
All right. Bucho arrives at the bar to survey the carnage. He's pissed at this unknown man destroying his business and reputation, especially considering he's under heavy scrutiny from his business partners, the Colombians. Mariachi left a note saying he's looking for him, and Bucho knows this is personal on some level. He orders his men to be on the lookout. In the bookstore, Carolina tends to El Mariachi's wounds and does an amateur operation to take the bullet out of his arm. While he rests, she discovers the guns in his guitar case and realizes who he is. El Mariachi asks her to help him find Bucho. He goes to the town church and talks to Buscemi. Upset by the massacre at the bar, Buscemi tries to convince El Mariachi to give up. Meanwhile, the Colombians, impatient with Bucho's inability to get this person attacking his operation under control, send a man in to handle it. This man, armed with throwing knives, attacks Mariachi and Buscemi, killing Buscemi. Bucho's men arrive and, seeing an unknown armed man, assume this is Mariachi and engage in a fight with him, ending in his death. They take the body back to Bucho, who realizes they've killed the wrong person once the Colombians describe what he looks like. So Buscemi was another actor that they only had for a limited time. I think, 6 or 7 days again. So they had to film his scenes all in a row. But frankly, worth it. Him being in this movie is a thumbs up for me. It works really well. And of course, shout out to the hardworking Danny Trejo, who doesn't speak a single word in this movie and is still so memorable that he became a Robert Rodriguez regular and a staple of movies going forward. You need the dude with the tattoo on his chest. You call Danny Trejo.
Yeah. So here we get the scene of Bucho and his boys in the bar looking over the massacre and finding the note left by El Mariachi, right? But then the mood is broken. The spell of the movie that they put you under when you're trying to just immerse yourself in this world, it is broken by this disjointed scene where the cast of Saved by the Bell, dressed in 90s preppy attire, wander into the bar. It's like, the fuck, man, I don't need this. It's not cute. It's not funny. It's just out of place. It doesn't work for me. And these scenes hurt the movie badly. For me, they do. Next, we get Carolina telling El Mariachi she knows who he is, that she's heard the stories. And I almost expect her to call him Kaiser Sose. I'm like, this is the story of Kaiser Sose. That's who this is. Through a quick phone call, we learned that Bucho isn't working alone. But honestly, these Colombians, they barely come into play in this movie. So I don't know, man. Next, we get Danny Trejo as Navajas, right? And this is going to what Tony said. This was a great scene with him throwing knives. And I loved this character visually. Everything about him, he's fucking great. I only wish he had given him a bigger role, as he was one of the most interesting characters in the movie. They kill him off super fast. He gets no lines. It was a bummer. It was fun seeing Bucho realize he killed the Colombians inside man. I thought that was pretty good. But like Tony said, I wanted way more of this character in the movie. He should have hunted fucking El Mariachi through the first half of the movie and then maybe had a showdown with, El Mariachi, where El Mariachi is wounded, but gets the upper hand and takes out, but we didn't get that.
Yeah, I concur. It's the idea that, how do we say it? It's convenient because Danny Trejo's character, unfortunately, the biggest fault is that those knives are not exactly deadly.
No,
kind of looks like he's throwing child's toys at you.
Little bread buttering knives,
like stuck in his forearm and one in his bicep, and he's like,
I had a hard time believing that it killed Buscemi that quickly.
Right.
Tony.
Well.
But in this world, El Mariachi can fight 25 guys with machine guns in a bar, not take one shot, but fucking Danny Trejo can't miss him with throwing knives in the middle of a city outside.
Right, but of course, it's only in a non-vital area,
Holy
the
shit.
deal. And of course, just when you think El Mariachi's run out of his luck because he's injured and he doesn't have any weapons and this and that. And then our friends from the gang roll up and they hose poor Danny, and that's the end of that. But you can tell, too, how inept they are. It's almost comical because of the armored limousine becomes more of a foible than it becomes a bonus for them because they're trying to shoot out of the ports and they can't hit him and he's jumping around like an acrobat and they're just, the Keystone cops. They can't get out of their own frickin' way, and 7 or 8 of them get killed before they wind up finally getting the best out of our friend Danny.
By bread butter knives. He kills them all with 3-inch fucking knives. You get it like the fucking IHOP.
But again, you got to remember, it was the coolness factor. They were interesting knives with the cross. You know what I mean?
This is Robert Rodriguez, and that's what you
Right.
get.
That's his shtick, man. He likes to be, the fuck reality. I'm going to do my own thing, and this guy's a badass regardless. I love the deployment system with the cummerbund full of knives.
Yes.
That he's
Oh, I
just
loved it. I loved it.
consistently releasing at
Yeah.
everybody around him. So
Visually, he was such a great bad guy. But these
Yeah.
fucking idiots in an armored limousine with fucking Uzis, and they're
Yeah.
all gonna get taken out by Danny Trejo with
Well,
with
more or
Chinese
less.
stars. Get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
And how hurt how hurt El Mariachi was. He was like mortally wounded by taking 3 little tiny fucking Chinese stars you'd buy at like the local fucking Chinese.
Yeah, you're gonna buy those. You're gonna buy those at the flea market. You don't even have to go to a professional store.
This is very similar to like some of the dumb shit you see in a James Bond movie, but you
What?
spent you
Negative. Negative, Ghost Rider. Pattern is full.
you believe
Negative.
it because of what it is. Like
It's a
that.
shoe
That's
phone.
how Rodriguez is. He's campy. He's over the top, very violent. I mean, you know, you see some of the stuff in a James Bond movie, and you don't even think about second guessing it because it's a James Bond movie. You kind of have to do the same thing with this kind of a movie. Like you have to be like, okay, Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino's helping. You know what? Whatever, anything goes.
I'll go with that, Mick, but it's the converse. Whereas in the Bond film, it's usually ultra high tech, and in this case, we're going ultra low tech.
That's
So
okay.
yeah.
Mickey,
Let's just stop for a second and think about in Quentin Tarantino, in Kill Bill, there's the movie, the scene in the movie where the bride takes on all of those people in the
Yes.
restaurant.
Right.
And she like, okay, is that gonna happen? Fucking no, that's not gonna happen.
No,
but she does.
But the thing is, in movies like that, Quentin Tarantino, he's giving you ultra violence. He's giving you amazing shots. We're getting nothing here of any of that. This isn't ultra violent. This isn't over the top. And Quentin Tarantino certainly wouldn't stop the fight and have 4 fucking dipshit teenagers come in and say, "Hey, can I use the payphone?" Like, no. Quentin Tarantino knows what his movie is. This movie is trying to cover too many bases, and it's not fucking working
Alright.
for me.
Okay, and to your point, Des, it's not a Quentin Tarantino film.
And that it is not.
By the way, I don't have the exact dates on all the stuff we're referencing, but I'm going to bet you my next paycheck that a lot of it is after this film. So I think guess who else took the masterclass of Robert Rodriguez, and his name is QT. Because he did a lot of this shit later. Not only that, but Tarantino, I think, becomes more reality based from his work with Rodriguez, who is less reality based, because it's, the scene you mentioned in Kill Bill where she's fighting. I think the actress's name is Vivica Fox, and they're fighting with a kitchen knife and a frying pan.
So good.
And they're definitely going to kill each other. There's no two ways about it. They are committed and talented. And it's the kind of thing where this is no holes barred, Mortal Kombat, heavy duty shit. And there's nothing over the top about it. It's die or kill. And you can't beat that. And it's the kind of thing where it's gritty and it's reality because of its nature. And while Desperado has a lot of grit and a lot of kind of reality based, it also goes way over the top in certain places and underwhelms in others. So
see, my problem that I had with Dusk Till Dawn was that I could feel when when the car was being driven by Tarantino and when the car was being driven by Rodriguez. And there are stark differences in the way they write, in the way they direct, in the way they visually deliver a story. And I think that that's the problem I have with these movies, is that I am a Quentin Tarantino fan. So when the vehicle of the movie is being driven by Tarantino, it feels very familiar to me, and I really like it a lot. And then when Rodriguez takes the wheel back and starts driving in his style, it feels kind of foreign to me, and I want to get back to the Tarantino delivery. And I think maybe I would like to just see a Rodriguez movie that is 100% Rodriguez, where Tarantino has no input at all, and maybe it would feel more like a coherent, solid body of work than this movie that comes in and out of focus for me. And that's what's going on here. So I don't know.
Yeah, I can understand that full away. I think the little snippets too, they're almost like snapbacks where, you were saying you wanted more of whatever, but the scene kind of cuts and this is just like a cliff that you fall off
Yeah.
of, right? Bucci's there, he's just kind of down, and then it's like, I don't know if it's levity or what is the point, I'm not sure, but it's the idea that we cut to these four morons and he has to scream at them to get them to leave the bar, and it's like, okay, is it a jab at tourists? Is it just to change the like to segue into something further? But
is it satire? Is it comedy?
right,
Is
right.
it what
Is it
is
an attempt
it?
at, yeah? Well, and you know the deal too. Comedy in this movie, it's not the knee slapper, kind
No.
of ha ha shit. It's more the subtle,
No,
the
it's
sublime,
him
the
crumpling up
sarcastic.
that note and dropping it right in the dude's open
Yeah,
dead mouth.
right.
Yes.
Well, and you know what? If you look at the '60s version of that, right? Look at like Sam Peckinpah movies, or what was the other one? Wild Bunch. I think Sam Peckinpah did that one too. But it's the kind of thing where it's almost ironic the way they film some of the stuff, and it's wild. I mean, he loves his influences and he pays homage to them throughout the film. Yeah,
Here's
good, great
the problem though, like with Dusk Till Dawn, we get the scene where the woman is in the trunk of the car, remember? And we're able to see through the side of the car through,
Yeah.
visual effects. And that's clearly a Tarantino trick. And it's really, really great. And then, Rodriguez doesn't have that same bag of tricks. He has a different set of tricks that just don't, in my opinion, gel well with what Tarantino's doing, because it's just not as good, in my opinion. If you're going to try and make a Tarantino film, you better be on par with Tarantino, especially if he's there doing it with you. I mean, it's like playing half a guitar solo with fucking Eddie Van Halen and you're fucking CC DeVille. It's like your half of the solo is going to stand out as not quite as good. It's just the way it is.
Sure.
Play your own solo next time.
Right.
Robert.
Yeah. You're either that or just be the rhythm guitarist. Don't try to play lead. You know what I'm
Where
saying?
have we gone? We've wandered down this weird path with fucking CC DeVille and Eddie
Nothing
Van
against
Halen.
CC DeVille. He's got plenty of talent, but
Sure he does.
sold a lot of
Sure he
records.
does. Yeah. Snorting cocaine is a talent. All right, Dylan, let's keep going.
You're fucking terrible, bro.
I am.
All right. Wounded and hurting from the death of his closest friend, Mariachi runs across the kid with the guitar and sees he's not practicing. When he realizes it's because there's drugs inside the guitar and the kid is doing a handoff, being used as a mule by his layabout father, he angrily confronts the boy, who tells him that most people in town work for Buccio, including Carolina. El Mariachi returns to Carolina and learns that Buccio gives her $50,000 a year to use her back room as long as she turns her cheek. He is angry and accuses her of telling Buccio he was in the church, though she denies it. Unexpectedly, Buccio pays her a visit, and she hastily hides El Mariachi. She keeps him a secret, and Buccio leaves. Carolina stitches up El Mariachi's wounds, and after, she gives him a new guitar, and they make love. Meanwhile, Buccio realizes that Carolina has lied to him. In the morning, Buccio's men arrive and attack them while setting the bookstore ablaze. The two fight their way out of the burning building and onto a local rooftop where El Mariachi gets a clear shot at Buccio for the first time, but inexplicably chooses not to attempt to kill him. And the two leave and take refuge in a hotel room. So this is the first time Salma Hayek had taken her clothes off in a movie. And she had a really difficult time with it. It took them hours to record this scene. Rodriguez really wanted a more explicit love scene, but honestly, I think that we got more than enough. Like, you get enough to understand what's happening. You don't need it much more explicit than it was. And the last bit of the scene, Antonio keeps making jokes to keep Selma calm. And I think the laughter was genuine, and it made me believe in their relationship. Like, it made me feel like they were comfortable with one another. Additionally, with so little money for special effects, the fire behind them as they walk away from the bookstore is very real. And Antonio Banderas said afterwards, after the take, all you could smell was burning hair. His, Salma's, the crew's, everyone's hair was on fire.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I don't think that they had they didn't have safety in line.
Yeah,
there.
usually you have like a stunt coordinator that says everybody needs to be 30 yards away from this when it goes up. I think they were just kind of winging it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what was really weird about this movie that I really noticed the same with Dusk Till Dawn was the first maybe 25 minutes, half hour, right? That amount really felt like a Tarantino movie. Same with Dusk Till Dawn. Like the first half hour, maybe 40 minutes, really, I was excited. I liked all the fucking, all the exposition I thought was really good. I thought it had some really fun shots. It had some fun gore, like Tarantino getting splattered with the blood and the brains. We get the great joke from Tarantino. We get the great, story from Buscemi in the beginning. Really feels great, but then it hits the wall. And once we lose Tarantino's character, we also lose his input on the movie, and it becomes a completely different movie. Through a little exposition with the kid and a quick scene of El Mariachi finding the drug in the kid's guitar, we learn the whole town is basically just a front for a drug ring. And honestly, I'm getting very bored at this point of the movie. I feel like if Tarantino had written and directed this, it could have been a banger. But what I'm getting up to this point is just a movie with great actors, but the director is delivering a very wonky movie and a very wonky script. It's missing the mark for me. It just doesn't have the charm it's trying to deliver. It doesn't feel like it knows what it wants to be. Once we get to the hotel sex scene, I'm starting to check out. It's the pacing hits the wall here. There's no more fun scenes, and the movie just starts to fucking grind to a halt. I was just like, oh.
I have a challenge for you.
Oh, go
You
ahead.
finish this podcast without saying Quentin Tarantino or From Dusk Till Dawn again, because you're just retreading over and over and over.
Oh, actually, I have a response to that. Fuck you, Tony.
One thing I will say, Des, is you have to remember too, without these Rodriguez movies, these first two at the very least, I don't think you get Dusk Till Dawn.
I don't want Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay, well, you can't compare one to the other because one is the precursor to the other's level of finish, if you know what I'm saying.
I didn't
so it's
like
the kind of thing where you keep saying, I want to compose this and compare it to this. I want to measure this by the standard
film.
of this.
Yes,
right.
I do.
Yeah, well, unfortunately,
but
it's not a Tarantino film. So that's like saying, Jesus, I really love Stanley Kubrick. Too bad, Dino De Laurentiis did this movie.
But this is a Tarantino film. He
not.
had a ton of input on it.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Robert Rodriguez and him are friends, but it's not a Tarantino movie by any stretch of the imagination.
If you read any of the literature on this movie, it says Tarantino was there almost every day of shooting, giving his input on the directing and everything on this movie.
Okay, well, be that as it may, apparently, according to you, the movie took a giant shit halfway through. So apparently he stopped at some point.
Because Rodriguez wasn't taking all of his advice.
No,
Quentin Tarantino.
Wait a second. You said he was there every day. Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn. Quentin Tarantino.
All right, somebody mute him. He's lost it.
I didn't like.
Yep, there you go. I've muted him. See, here's the thing.
Nice job.
Here's the thing. You cannot say that he was there every single day whispering in his ear and telling him what to do. Can you see him flipping out?
Yes. Yeah, he's obviously over caffeinated. It's a horrible condition.
Yeah, you can't. It can't be both ways.
You're gonna whack at the mic.
Yeah, he's trying to get back in and he can't because I'm in charge. So you can't say that he was there every day talking in his ear and then say that the second half of the movie sucked because Quentin Tarantino wasn't there, because it's not mutually exclusive. All right. I'm letting you back in. Can you behave yourself? Okay.
I didn't like this movie for all the same reasons I didn't like Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay, well, that was short, sweet, and to the point. Now we're talking.
Okay.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Keep going.
Where were we?
I will say that I thought that the scene with Buccio and him and his girlfriend are having sex, and then she stops, and then he blows the cigar smoke in her mouth. Like,
yes,
what a dick! That was such a dick. Like, that shows you everything you need to know about the man right there.
Well, and they're trying to make him appear like a badass. Like, he's so cool and tough. He's not even interested in this chick. He's just going to smoke his cigar, and he's going to tell her to go fuck herself without telling her to go fuck herself. So
and I remember that that black outfit that she wears when they're running away she was so fucking cool, and that was like such an iconic 90s scene when they're walking away and the explosions behind them, and they just both look so cool and so sexy and so badass. That was
And the
such
one
like,
red shoe and the one black shoe.
yeah, like when
Yeah.
you think about
Yeah.
the 90s, like that's one of the things that comes to mind is that scene.
That one red shoe, one black shoe thing, that felt like Tarantino to me.
Of course it did.
Sure it did.
Because you know, Quentin Tarantino, he usually wears different colored shoes. Everybody knows that.
Because he's got a
And then the look of
mind.
recognition on his face when he realizes who Bucho is, I thought he played very well.
Mhm.
I thought that was a great scene.
They never explain it in the movie, but if you ask me, the only reason that El Mariachi won't shoot Bucho is because it's going to be in the back of the head and at distance. And to him, that is not a legitimate kill because of the idea that you're ambushing this guy. And that is, again, homage to the great Westerns of, I don't care if it's a spaghetti Western or if it's a Hollywood Western, but it's the idea that you don't do that. You don't shoot a man in the back. You don't ambush people. You confront them. You deal with your issues and you handle it between men. So that's a supposition on my part, but take it.
Tony, I love that observation. I love that observation because, it's such a subtle point to make, but obviously you watch Westerns and stuff like that. Maybe a lot of listeners don't. So what you're saying is he was just making him. He was IDing him for a later kill.
Right. And I think that the thought crossed his mind. He's like, I finally got you, you fucker. I'm going to take you down. And then as he's lining him up for the shot, he's like, this is all wrong. This is
bad
not
timing.
how I've.
Yeah.
Right. And it's also the idea that if I want retribution, I want to look you in the eye like a man.
I want you to know who did it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't want to be this sniper from a rooftop in the back of the head and you have no idea what happened. And all you know is it's fade to black and it's game over. So, and I think it's also kind of I don't want to say ethical. Maybe it's the idea that, there's just certain things in a quote unquote gunfight you don't do, but it's to the idea that, you want to give this guy a chance to defend himself like anything else.
Yeah. Well, I had read that Rodriguez wanted him to shoot and Tarantino said, no, it's too cheap. What we're going to do here.
Yeah. Because whatever Tarantino says is right. And Rodriguez,
That's not true. That's not true. None of that is true. What I just said.
No one would have guessed.
Bucho gathers his men and tells them to kill anyone they see in town that they don't know. Realizing that Bucho will never stop hunting them, El Mariachi calls his friends Campa and Kino in to help. The trio meet up on the edge of town and encounter Bucho's goons. A massive gun battle ensues, and most of Bucho's goons, along with Campa and Kino, are killed. El Mariachi sees the guitar kid wounded in the crossfire and rushes him to the hospital. El Mariachi and Carolina head over to Bucho's compound to confront him directly. It is then revealed that Bucho and El Mariachi are brothers. Bucho offers to let El Mariachi go if he lets him kill Carolina. El Mariachi kills his brother, then shoots his remaining henchmen. The two visit the boy in the hospital, and El Mariachi leaves on his own. Carolina catches up to him on the road and picks him up, and El Mariachi initially leaves his weapons on the side of the road. But when the two drive away, they return shortly to pick up the guitar case full of guns, quote unquote, just in case. To me, this felt like a huge waste of Campa and Kino. I do, as much as I enjoy this movie, I do have problems with the ending. You have Campa and Kino that are built up to be these badasses that are going to level the whole town, and they get taken out really quickly. Also, El Mariachi leaves Campa's back open to save the kid. And it's like, that's shitty. That's your dude. Like, you fucking walk away to fucking help the kid. Like, you don't even know this kid. This is your bro. And as I mentioned before, this ending scene at Bucho's compound was supposed to be a huge gunfight. And at first I thought we were robbed of more than one good fight, but I suppose, honestly, Bucho was dead. That's the important part. But I felt like you could have done this a little differently, and I will do it in my alternate ending.
All right, so bear with me because this is the final scene, and I have thoughts. So at this point,
do you
really?
So at this point, I want more action, more Steve Buscemi, more knife throwing Danny Trejo, more action, more Tarantino influence. But what we get here, we get Carolina singing El Mariachi a lullaby. Fuck you. I'm literally rolling my eyes. I'm hoping the gang closes in on them and kills them both in the end credits roll. But nope, they escape. Dude, give me a break in this little town. It's this little town. They gun him down. They jump onto a roof. The gang can't find him. They go to a hotel room. Gang can't find him. It's not fucking Manhattan. They're in fucking a tiny little Mexican town that everybody fucking is part of the cartel. There's a gang, and these two are slipping away left and right. It's a fucking joke.
We're just trying to show you the ineptitude of Bucho and his gang.
I'm not. No, I don't want to buy this.
Come on.
Of course, we get more Mexican stormtroopers that couldn't hit the side of a fucking barn. This is where El Mariachi has Bucho in his gun sight, but realizes something, and he doesn't take the shot. I love that Tony explained why. I totally believe what he said is what it was supposed to be. I only wish that they had written it in somehow so everybody could understand it, because it would have been cool to fucking hear him say something like, not like this, not like this. Just give me something. I want this final showdown that Delin is saying doesn't exist so bad. But the director kept slowing the pace down and slowing the pace down when he should have been ramping it up until it almost hits a standstill. And this idea that Carolina and El Mariachi could just hide in this room, no, it doesn't fucking work. They needed to speed this ending up a shitload, and they needed to edit the end of this movie down a shitload. Next, we get more guitar case wielding strangers rolling into town unnoticed. Give me a fucking break. Bucho would have had the one road into town covered. Nope, he literally said, shoot anyone you don't recognize with a guitar case full of guns. But these two guys, matching the exact description, roll into town on a Greyhound bus, get off, have coffee at Bucho's house of coffee unnoticed. Bullshit. Finally, we get this quick, unsatisfactory rock and roll montage shootout, followed by a scene of the boy in the hospital all shot up. But we're not done yet. We get this bogus brothers twist ending, backloaded with lazy information dump explaining why this is a good twist. But it's not a good twist. It's unsatisfactory and it's crap. El Mariachi kills his brother while he sits totally confused, unexplained the dynamics between the two brothers, their relationship, and all this information that I need to make this twist ending a twist ending. It's just, hey, you're my brother. Oh, okay. I'll let you live if you kill the girl. Like, what? No. And finally, after this rushed, bogus final act and this laughably bad twist ending, he walks out on Carolina with a promise to thank her later. But they couldn't let the dead dog lie. Nope. We get this final cheeky scene with Carolina picking him up on the side of the road. Oh, God. This, not to bring up Dusk Till Dawn again, but this fucking movie needed that sexy final act like we got in the bar at Dusk Till Dawn where they shoot up a million zombies. We got nothing at the end. We got nothing. We're standing there with our dicks in our hand, and it sucks ass.
Okay, we're vampires, not zombies.
Whatever.
Okay, so the three of us, for the party of the defense, will now try to put the movie together.
Okay.
So that poor Des could understand why he didn't get all those wonderful things in his diatribe.
Go ahead, Tony.
I would just like to say that I fucking loved that scene with the mariachi men. With the final scene with the fucking guitar cases and the grenade launcher. And it was so fucking over the top. It was awesome. Yes.
How about this, Des? Let me do this. I think Mikki is just saying from an action standpoint.
Yes.
First of all, I love the fact that not only do you need to actuate your rocket launcher / guitar case, but you don't just stand there and do it, baby. You look good. You bend down on your right leg while you kick out your left leg and you mount it to your shoulder and then you fire it.
It was fucking badass.
You look like a ballerina while you're shooting this fucking thing. And you blow up the armored fucking car. So armored it is, we took your ass out, bish.
Yeah. See what it is once Des decides he doesn't like a movie for whatever reason, he just falls apart and has to nitpick it all.
No, nitpick.
You got to remember, wait a minute. You got to remember, as much as Rodriguez is over the top, he's also got subtleties. Okay. What does she say? Now, it's never explained as to how she knows, meaning Selma Hayek's character. How does Carolina know that he's got good friends, right? That are also, by the way, badass assassins. You could call your friends. Oh, I don't want to do that. But of course, he has no options, so he calls them. And of course, it's that classic bro call. Hey, man, I'm in a Kuna. I'm in the jam. Can you come and help me? What? You'll be there in 3 hours? Awesome. First of all, the guy number one arrives on the Jesus bus, right? What is on the front of the bus? Is this like Yeah, the church bus. Okay. I don't think he's a member of the fucking congregation, if you know what I'm saying. Number one. Number two, the other guy has like this bitchin' 50s
That
Mack truck.
Is so cool.
That's customized. It's got a little back with this double machine gun guitar cases.
Sure, very
And
subtle. Blends right in.
He's subtle, like a heart attack. He's fucking subtle.
Blends right in.
Yeah, well, okay. But you got to remember, too, mariachi culture in Mexico is a classic. I mean, if you've ever gone to that part of the world, like every street corner in the downtown area on a Friday or Saturday night has mariachis just playing. But, you know, the kid says it best. There's not much work for mariachis anymore, right? You know, the shit's gone bad. My other thing, too, is if you know anything about the drug trade, nobody in Mexico is muling drugs. They're just getting them to the border because the drugs aren't being consumed and bought in Mexico. They're being transshipped from somewhere else to Mexico to the United States where all the consumers are. So the whole premise of the movie is a little flawed, but we're going to go with it just for shits and giggles. The other difference is once the boys get back in town and it's a Thin Lizzy concert, you know, they're going to be badass because they're badass. This is a suicide mission in and of itself. Everybody knows it, right?
It's not because these guys can't shoot. Nobody can shoot.
Okay, but it's 33 on 1. They've got a fucking armored car. You know what I mean? They're always everywhere. They're in the up top. They're down low. I mean, you know, you've got to dispense with the idea that reality is here. This is not Dirty Harry, where every shot is perfectly planned and hits its target. You just got to go with the Rodriguez, where the fun of the movie is that they're spraying and praying, right? They're just hosing the place down with bullets and they still can't hit the side of a barn. My favorite too is even the guy with the rocket launcher. What's he doing in the meantime? He's just kind of standing there going,
yeah.
You know, he's just chilling out. He doesn't even so much as find cover. He stands out in the open. Fucking shoot at me. I don't care. So you just got to go with it. The other thing too is that, let's be real. It's the ride away in the sunset, right? Because unfortunately, and Delin hit a good point. Would I have done what El Mariachi did? Okay, so you like the little kid. I'm down with that, but you don't leave your bros back uncovered. You did. You're a turd. Shit happens. You made a choice. Maybe it was the wrong one. Maybe it was the right one. We're not here to judge that character. And you know eventually he's going to wind up with the love interest because that's the way movies go, right? He's going to ride off in the sunset, or in this case, in an old International Harvester Scout with a bad rattle can paint job. That's the way that works. If it was you, Des, you would have done the same thing, and don't fucking lie and say you wouldn't.
Danny Trejo's in town for 5 minutes. They hunt him down in Cunnick. These two, they're like, the myth is it's a man with a guitar case.
But he goes out with a hell of a bang, so he's worth it.
God.
The guy doesn't have a speaking line in the whole movie. Unfortunately, he casts a longer shadow than almost all the characters that do have speaking lines. So take that for what it's worth.
Two strangers have pulled into town with guitar cases, like you have said, but we did not kill them. Though they have met up with another man with a guitar case.
They obviously did not, as you so eloquently stated, they would have had the road covered. But these guys aren't quick. They're not sharp. I mean, come on. They're hanging out at the gin mill getting drunk.
It's a fucking plot hole that is unforgivable.
That's it. What are you going to do? You want good gangsters? You got to go to an Italian. Enough with the Mexicans. You know, if it was a mob movie, they would have known. But they didn't know.
Fucking movie a shitty score. That's what I'm going to do. Mickey,
okay, end of the movie. That's the best part about the review process.
Did you love the end of this movie?
Like I said, I loved the shootout scene. I thought that was amazing. I don't know. It's campy. It was over the top. It was total Rodriguez, and I fucking loved it. I didn't like how it was just like, hey, get in the Jeep, and he gets in, and then he throws his shit away, and then he's like, well, maybe not. I just thought it was too quick, too perfect. They should have left it, I don't know, for me, open. I don't know.
When he walks out of the hospital, just leave it.
Seeing Danny Trejo open an eye, or I don't know, something like, I don't know. It needed some more oomph, because I felt like the rest of the movie was this whole over the top fucking thing. And then you're like, oh, here they go riding off in the sunset.
What about the twist ending, Mickey? Did you like the twist ending? Did you think it was like the end of Usual Suspects? Was it that good?
No.
No, it wasn't. It was fucking terrible.
Nothing personal, Des, but I don't think there's been another movie with a twist ending that's been that
There
good.
hasn't.
There isn't.
I mean, and I'm talking about in the history of filmmaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
120
Sixth Sense-
years of movies.
Yeah, that
Sense
was pretty good. Sixth Sense was
Okay,
pretty
all
good.
right, but a totally different genre of film.
Right.
So
The
yeah,
the Inside Man, not.
not even Inside, much less Man. Yeah.
I mean, this I like. Again, I love Robert Rodriguez. He's fucking over the top. If you've ever seen his other stuff, he's just incredible. I think he's incredible. I love him. I might like him more than Tarantino.
I think. Oh God, Des is going to hunt you down and kill
What?
you.
What? Mickey,
But-
give me a movie I could watch that's just Rodriguez.
Hold up. Let me say, when they did Grindhouse, I way more enjoyed the Robert Rodriguez movie than I did the Tarantino movie.
Yes.
Because the Robert Rodriguez movie is action blast from start to end. Whereas the Quentin Tarantino movie, they talked and they talked and they talked and nothing was happening. I literally was like, I fucking hate this movie. I literally hate Death Proof. And I love the Rodriguez movie. What was it?
Planet Terror.
Thank you.
So Planet Terror is just 100% Rodriguez. No Quentin Tarantino influence at all. He's not even in the movie,
So they
right?
released them together. He did one movie and Tarantino did Death Proof. And you could go to the movie theater and watch them back to back because it was the old Grindhouse type movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like, you know, like when you would go to the
That was
shitty
the
movie
idea,
places in
Yeah.
like the 70s. And
Sure,
see
you got a
creepy
double
movie.
feature.
It was a double feature.
Right.
So they were two like they were separate movies. And I really like the Rodriguez movie, and I do not like the Quentin Tarantino
He did
movie.
Sin
And I
City,
love
too.
Quentin. Huh?
He did Sin City.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
Rodriguez complete by
Yes.
himself?
Yeah.
Well, for homework, which of the two would you suggest I watch if you were going
Sin
to...
City.
Sin City?
Yeah, because the other one is about zombies, so you're not
Okay,
gonna
I
enjoy
will
it.
watch Sin City. I will
Help
watch
me
it.
though. Was Sin City just directed by Rodriguez?
He
Because wasn't
co-directed it. I'm looking at it right now. He co-directed it, and then he also directed the sequel, A Dame to Kill For, which was fucking amazing.
Has Rodriguez
Really?
ever written and directed a movie himself?
Yeah. El
she just
Mariachi,
did Machete.
Desperado,
No,
Once
he
Upon
didn't.
a Time.
Once
No,
Upon a Time in Mexico.
Machete?
Yeah, he didn't. Machete?
Machete Kills, yeah.
Maybe I'll watch
That's-
Machete.
Danny
Yeah,
Trejo.
that's Danny Trejo at his best,
Yeah.
probably.
Ooh, Machete. All right, I'll check that out. No, he did not do this one on his own. Just the bad parts.
Nothing personal, Des. I hate to tell you, though, he did.
Nope. He only did the bad parts of this movie.
Okay, if you say so.
God.
Here's the best part, too. You got to remember, this movie is allocated resources. When you're making a film and you want to have named actors and you have a $7 million budget, your ass is in a bind because you better film this shit in 48 hours. You don't have time to do set dressing and costume changes and exotic locations. I mean, the whole fucking film was probably done in, a 30-mile radius. Because with $7 million, you'll burn through that in 2 or 3 weeks.
It's
So
amazing.
it's the kind of thing
the
where
actors he got.
even in 1995 dollars, it's incredible that this film even got made.
Yes.
First of all, he was both the writer, actually all three, the writer, the director, and the producer, because he had to go out and raise the capital to get the film. So, it's a wonder it ever got off the ground to begin with, but I think it's the idea that it's tough to do a film that's a high dollar movie and make it good, much less a cheap film, because now you're just, you've got to do certain things because these scenes are cheaper. They're affordable. So that's what we're doing here. And it's difficult because, he's trying to be all things to all people. So it's never easy.
I thought the movie had potential. It just didn't live up to what I thought it could have been, I guess. All right. So has everybody said their piece on this piece? Okay. Well, then that's it.
I also would like to point out that Kill Bill had a budget of $30 million. So you can make a lot more with $30 million than you can with 7.
Yeah,
so give Robert Rodriguez a little bit of a break. Dude.
And you pay Tom Brady the big bucks. He's a great quarterback, and you pay Zach Wilson nothing because he sucks and throws interceptions.
No. That $30 million was not going all into Quentin Tarantino's pocket. That was going back into that film because you can see it.
It's because that's because the studio knew that Quentin Tarantino would deliver a cash cow, and they have no confidence in fucking Robert Rodriguez because he pumps out caca.
You're a jackass.
I know. Okay, let's go over to the recasting couch, and I'll get us started. So I would replace Robert Rodriguez with Quentin Tarantino.
Of course you would.
As the writer, director, and the lead. Go ahead.
You're such a douche.
You don't have any actual characters to replace?
No.
Come on.
He's just being a douche.
No. He's just giving us his opinion.
Yeah. So I'm going to recast the guy that has no name that sits down with Quentin Tarantino at the bar, the guy that doesn't check out and gets shot in the face. And I'm going to recast him with Tommy Chong because I think that would have been fucking hilarious.
I
yes,
love that.
That would have
I
been
love that.
brutally wonderful.
Your best scene ever is Tommy Chong and fucking Cheech Moran smoking the giant joint in that first Cheech and Chong movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's so fucking funny.
All right. I had a difficult time recasting only because I wanted to get out of the box of all Latino actors, only because I'm not wickedly versed in them. And the whole cast, other than Buscemi, is pretty much all Latino actors. So I had to go into the realm of Hollywood, and I decided to replace Bucho, who I thought was a weak kind of bad guy. And there's so many good bad guys out there. And Gary Oldman as the corrupt DEA agent and The Professional came to mind. Because Gary Oldman can do damn near anything. You give him a character and lay it out for him with a script, he could act as anything in the world because the man is just multi-talented.
Yes.
And then I replaced Selma Hayek because let's be honest, she didn't get the job because she read for this part and they said, you're perfect. She got the job because she fit a bill.
Yes.
So I decided to put someone with a little more polish and a little more maybe even evil is the word, a little more tinge of evil. And I thought of Sharon Stone from her days in the 90s when she was a somebody. Although I don't think you fall in love with a girl like her because she's not sweet innocent. But I thought that would spice things up a little bit. And for what they paid the other two actors, maybe you could work these guys in. So.
I love Gary Oldman as the bad guy.
You can't not love him. The guy can do damn near anything. He's a miracle worker.
He's probably in my top 3 actors of all time.
Yeah, I was
Have you guys seen the video of him where the guy says, hey, so we took some of the scenes from your movies and we made them funnier. And the guy, and Gary Oldman's like, oh, really? How? And he's like, well, we added flatulence to them. And it's scenes of Gary Oldman like doing movie scenes. And then you hear like, and Gary Oldman loses it. He can't even fucking hold it together. He's laughing so hard. He's like, that's the fucking funniest shit. He was so amused. It was very funny.
Look it up on YouTube, honey. It's so funny.
It's very funny.
Okay. Gary Oldman and farting? Is that what I'm going to...
Yes. If you put in Gary Oldman farting, it will literally come up. It's hilarious.
Okay. I like it.
I liked him in Book of Eli. I thought he was good in that.
I went... So Tony and I were watching this, and I was like, I don't know if I would recast this at all. And he's like, oh, come on, you got to do something. So I was really racking my brain. I am going way the fuck out there for this one. Only because I've only seen him play a bad guy in one movie. And he was great. I think I would replace Bucho and put Keanu Reeves.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Did you ever see him in The Gift? He was a fucker.
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I am.
Well, I think in Keanu's spectrum of acting skills, as narrow focused as it may be, he is probably going to be a good bad guy because he is a driven actor. In other words, he's a guy in every movie he ever plays who has a point to reach, right? And that's all he does is he's getting to that point. And all the periphery be damned. So if he's a bad guy and his job is to find El Mariachi and kill him, he can maybe cover that ground. I wouldn't push him much harder than that.
I can't imagine his cadence though, like, hey, Mariachi, you're a bad guy. Don't make me kill you.
You've got him as Bill and Ted, but
yeah,
that's
totally. Right. Who's the catcher in that movie, Major League?
Oh, Tom Berenger.
Tom Berenger was the guy who I was thinking to play Bucho, as if you wanted to put like a white actor in there. Okay, let's do some quick alternate endings, then we'll score this thing and bag it. Dylan, I know you got one you're dying to spit out, so let's hear it.
Well, I've got 2.
Oh,
and the first one is very obvious. So in my first alternate ending, we do away with the gunfight between El Mariachi and the goons, and instead Campa and Kino join him at Bucho's stronghold, and we have the big fight there with Bucho there. Like, that's the whole point. You're fighting to Bucho. It's like at the video game. You fight your way through to the fucking boss.
Yes.
Like, you know, like this fight scene with the little kid and all that was like, it derailed things. I want take the kid out of it. He was fine for what he did, like the thing with the guitar and the muling. You learned that. Now the kid disappears. Like
Bye.
he does not come back. We
Yep.
don't need him.
Get him out.
And then, and so the entire stronghold. So Compa and Kino do exactly what everyone said they were going to do. They're going to basically everyone's like they will literally level this town if you bring them here. They didn't do anything. They didn't. They blew up a car. Woo. So I want them to fucking blow up Bucho's house with the fucking rockets and shit, right?
Hey, Dylan, those explosions are very expensive. We only have $7 million.
I mean, I get that, but I'm just saying, like, you could have like just put up like a board and had an explosion, and I would have believed it.
Yes.
You know. Then and I said at the end, very end, that El Mariachi would fail to shoot his brother, and Carolina would do it and save his ass, and then they leave. And that was my first ending. My second ending, instead, the kid with the broken leg. So he has spent this entire movie trying to get in the good graces of Bucho, right? And he gets his leg broken for it. He gets shot at. Instead of dying, he falls off the building, and that's it. But at the end of the movie, El Mariachi has left his gun case, and the other three gun cases are there. The 2 automatic weapons and the rocket launcher. He wakes up and he takes them, and he's like, he's going to be like the next El Mariachi.
I like that too.
Yeah, that was another wasted character in the movie. They went out of their way to build him up as this great fighter with a great chin, and then he just does nothing.
Yeah.
Tony, do you have an alternate ending for us?
I really kind of didn't. I mean, to me, it's almost like if we're going to do a Western comparative, it's Magnificent Seven. It's the idea that you're going to put all these guys in a situation where they can't win, and everybody's got to die because it's a suicide mission, right? And it would go something along those lines. I didn't think of that young man that you guys had just talked about with the broken leg, but it would be the idea that almost to the concept of the little kid learns the motto from El Mariachi and his amigos, and he takes up the fight when it's time for him to grow up. And
there you go then. 20 years later, and it's the little kid.
Yeah, you can do a slow burn for a number 4 or number 5 in the series.
Mick, would you like to make up an alternate ending?
You know what? I fucking had one, sort of. Okay.
What'd you do with it?
How confident?
Well, it's not quite finished. So,
well, as you can tell, none of mine are, so don't worry about it.
Well, my thought was, so he goes and he kills the guy, El Bucho. And then he goes to the hospital. He goes to the hospital, sees the kid. In the hospital, the kid wakes up, sees him and Salma Hayek, freaks out because Salma Hayek is actually Bucho.
Oh, what?
I like it.
She's the mastermind behind all of it.
Dude, that would have been so much more of a satisfying ending than what we got. If she had pulled the gun out and shot the brother, shot Bucho, and then while fucking El Mariachi was there going, no, and his brother died in his arms, she took the gun out and shot him too, fade to black. Yes, please.
Well, I hadn't gotten that far, but I was thinking like maybe the kid freaks out because he's like, oh my God, she's Bucho. She's the bad one.
Okay. Are you ready for the best alternate ending of the evenings? I'm about to give it to you.
Oh, yeah, we're braced for impact.
Okay. We find out through a second eyewitness that El Mariachi is actually Kaiser Soze and Verbal Kint was actually Kobayashi the whole time. That's it.
Wait a minute. That's not a Tarantino
Did you
movie.
say gay? Did you say gay?
I said okay.
Oh, okay.
and that's not a Tarantino movie, so I don't know what the hell we're talking about it for, but okay.
Well, because it's so obvious that Kaiser Soze and El Mariachi are all one and the same.
Does Kaiser Soze even exist?
What if Bucho was Tony Manero?
That's right.
God. Then I would cry as he walked down.
What if Frank Stallone wasn't just a bartender? He was actually Bucho.
And I suppose your mother was just a mother. Oh, God. Okay, there it is. So we've done it. Let's score this thing and put it to fucking bed. Rewatch score. In the right hands, this movie would have big potential. But the storytelling, pacing was a mess, and the final act was beyond slow and boring and weak. So my rewatch score is 1.75. I'll never watch the movie again. It's a little under average, and the 175 is for all the great actors and all their great performances. Flynn.
We see this movie vastly differently. I'm not even gonna explain why I'm giving it this score because I think it's obvious. 4.257.
That's so coming from a person that gave fucking Neighbors one of the greatest comedies of all times, 0.5 or whatever gross score you gave it, you magoo. Tony,
How did we know the Neighbors thing was going to come back to haunt her?
yeah,
always
because
will.
that's a thorn
Because
in
you
this
can't let it
podcast.
go.
Yeah,
'Cause you
because
can't
it's
let it
such a
go.
Yeah,
great.
well, we're
fucking
men. We
movie.
don't let things go very well. We don't
Great
do that.
movie. It's a great movie. Tony,
I'm going to go with a 3.0 because
3.0.
It's a 3.0 film. It's got excellent parts. It's got some slow stuff. It's not perfect. Let's be honest. It is what it is. And it's the kind of thing where sadly it is mostly a you really like it or you really don't like it. And if you don't like it, that's okay. Just don't watch it again. And there's more for me. So fuck them.
I was in the middle. I didn't hate this movie like it sounds like. I didn't. I saw the charm and
I
I
just
saw the
made
The
it.
guy
I
that
love-
gave it a 1.75.
Well, no, because you got to figure 2.50 is middle average. So I'm saying it's a little below average. Mickey, what'd you think?
Mine, I'm gonna give this because again, I love Robert Rodriguez. I'm gonna give this a 2.89.
2.89.
It's
See,
a
that's
little
a very
for me.
fair
It's a little
score.
above average because it was so over the top and just a really fun fucking movie to watch.
Great. So, Delyn, add up those scores and tell us where it lands.
Okay, it takes 2.97425. So let me just get to the list.
I like that score for this movie. I think that's a good score. Little above average. I think that a lot of people could see it like that. So I like that.
Okay, so that takes it to, just give me a second.
The system works this time.
It is at number 78.
Okay.
It is right below Mama and is right above Top Gun.
Dude, come on. Top Gun. This is better than Top Gun. Okay,
Yeah.
the system has failed tonight. System has failed.
Again, I think it depends on the reviewers because sadly, Top Gun is also one of those movies where lots of people thought it was great and lots of people couldn't give a shit about it. So,
Tony, original Top Gun or this? What do you like? What's better?
original Top Gun
Top
all day
Gun.
long?
Yeah,
But that's
all day.
not the point.
Okay, Iceman.
Yeah, okay. Also, I would just like to go out on a limb and just bring to your attention the movie Neighbors 1981
Yeah.
has a Rotten
so
Tomatoes
good.
score of 57%. Desperado has a Rotten Tomato score of 70%.
Yeah, because people are
So,
stupid.
Stick it in your fucking pipe and smoke it, you jackass.
John Belushi
Oh,
and Dan
Lord.
Aykroyd in their prime.
in their worst movie ever.
Best movie.
Embarrassment.
One of the best movies ever.
Okay, you
Anyway,
two have
anyway.
the domestic later.
Okay. We will be back in 2 weeks where we will be reviewing the classic horror movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with
Nice.
original flavor, Tony. Really looking forward to that one. I'm not guaranteeing we're going to be back because if you cockroaches don't fucking hit the like button, it's over. It's over. Do you hear me?
Who'd you calling a cockroach, man?
Okay. And on our sister podcast, Violent Vinyl Radio, we will be breaking down Every Mother's Nightmare, the debut album. Spoiler alert, this is a curry diarrhea in a baby's diaper, okay? This is the biggest piece of shit I've ever had to listen to in my life.
Wow, that is a real image, Des. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so until next time, I just have one question for you. Have you ever seen this movie?